anniversary of Roe v. Wade, the Supreme Court decision that legalized abortion. It's actually the worst since it was legalized in 1973. NARAL Pro-Choice America gave it a D in its national report card. Last year, 52 laws restricting abortion rights were passed by 24 states. It's nearly half. A total of 807 anti-choice laws have been passed by the states since 1995, with more than 200 since 2011. I'm not going to go into all the different types of restrictions. They're covered in my article in this week's WW. Congress debated 87 anti-choice bills in 2013. Most were related to gutting abortion and contraceptive coverage in the Affordable Care Act. Fortunately, they were all defeated. But two congressional actions severely limited reproductive rights. Food stamps that were cut by an austerity bill, and long-term unemployment, which will severely limit women's choices to be able to take care of themselves and their families. Being able to feed your family is one of the basics of reproductive rights. But unfortunately, two of the primary reproductive rights groups did not even consider this as being an attack on reproductive rights. The new year started with both good and bad news. In the interest of time, I have to jump directly to the bad news. The first anti-choice measure was approved by the House Judiciary Committee on January 15th. Called the No Taxpayer Funding for Abortion Act, it ensures that abortions are not directly funded by any federal program or department. But, as some people may remember, since 1977, the Hyde Amendment has denied Medicaid coverage for abortions for poor women, although 12 states still cover the costs in those states. H.R. 7 would impose sweeping requirements on the tax code and restrictions on private insurance, which would eliminate deductions for abortion services. The law would ultimately make abortions less affordable for all. The law's most controversial provision, the most vicious, invasive attack on women, would require the Internal Revenue Bureau to conduct audits of rape and incest victims who have abortions and women who have abortions for life-threatening complications to ensure they are not committing tax fraud. That means the IRS would have the final say on what counts as sexual assault or a life-threatening situation, forcing women to prove their cases. Only the most profoundly misogynist, reactionary minds could dream up such a draconian anti-woman law. The January 21st issue of the Times had a front-page article entitled, "Party Seize on Abortion Issues in Midterm Race." But contrary to his statement in the article that the party intends to reach out positively to win women's support, Mike Huckabee, who is said to be running for president, though he didn't last very long in 2008, started things off with a big bang yesterday. In an attempt to attack Obamacare, he showed how deeply he disrespects, dishonors, and demeans women when he said, quote, "Democrats think that women are nothing more than helpless and hopeless creatures whose only goal in life is to have a government provide for birth control medication for them. The Democrats want to insult the women of America by making them believe that they are helpless without Uncle Sugar coming in and providing for them a prescription every month for birth control because they cannot control their libido or their reproductive system without the help of the government." Wow. I swear to God, you cannot make up stuff like this. And we are only going to hear more things like this over the next 10 months. Now, we've got to ask ourselves, what are the Democrats going to do in response to this? If they're going to try and use the fact that they support abortion, are they going to fight like all hell to extend food stamps? Are they going to fight so that everybody who's unemployed gets unemployment insurance no matter what state they live in? There's an article in today's Times about North Carolina. A woman, 20 weeks, fired, 20 weeks, can't collect anything, is poverty-stricken. What are the Democrats going to do to fight for women? Are they going to fight for equal pay for women? What are they going to do? All these things that I mentioned are integral to reproductive justice. It's not just being able to go have an abortion, it's being able to have healthy children. And all those guarantees are part of reproductive justice. So we've got to ask, will the Democrats really fight for these things? Put up your hands if you think they will. Seeing none. Wow, that's exactly what I expected. There has not been a national mobilization in Washington, D.C. in defense of choice in 10 years, largely because groups that traditionally defend and promote abortion rights in the name of reproductive rights depend on voluntary contributions, and demonstrations, let's face it, cost millions of dollars. They are now focusing on supporting Democratic candidates and fighting against many attacks in the states. But there needs to be a movement in the streets to turn back the ugly, racist, sexist, anti-lesbian, gay, bi, trans, queer, anti-labor, anti-poor, pro-rich, pro-austerity, undemocratic onslaught. You got the picture? What's needed is to draw lessons from the successful movements in the past, like the massive civil rights movement led by the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr. What we need, it's time for women's rights activists to join with all the groups under attack in a massive people's power movement. It was, after all, that women were protesting in the streets for legal abortion is what propelled the Republican majority court to decide in favor of Roe in 1973. We've got to do it again. Only a united movement can make power to the people and reproductive justice a global reality. I don't know if people are aware of it now, but the most prevalent form of birth control now is sterilization. In the 70s, we were very active in the Committee to End Sterilization Abuse, which we chronicled took place in Puerto Rico under a U.S. government policy so that women would be able to work in the U.S. businesses that were in Puerto Rico. There were issues in New York City around women who were Latina and black being forced in order to get welfare to become sterilized. We saw cases of Native American women where it was very prevalent on reservations, and we chronicled struggles in Los Angeles where it showed that there were mostly women who were Latina who were being pressured to have sterilizations. So all of this is part of the anti-poor eugenics movement that went on in the country starting in the 30s and didn't end until the Ralph sisters case in 1974. And as Daniel pointed out, it's still going on today in the California prisons. But there's another way that this is being practiced. And that is, I don't know if people are aware of this, but the birth rate has gone down since 2008. Not wildly significantly, but it's going down. And why is that? Poverty. Because women are choosing not to have children when they can't afford them. And it's tremendous economic pressure. And if we think it's bad here, it's got to be really bad in Europe, Greece, Ireland, Portugal, Spain. It's got to be enormous pressure on people not to have children. But that's all a part of what the struggle for reproductive justice is all about. It's the fact that people should be able to have children if they want them. And it's society's responsibility, it's our responsibility to see that all children are given the same chance in life with all the opportunities for a solid family, good education, jobs, food, everything else that goes into building a very strong society. So these are all the more reasons why we have to struggle to end this capitalist system.